I'm super excited to welcome you all back to our Connected Giraffe series. This is the third one of this year. Our latest webinar last time was looking at the potential of NFTs and metaverse for marketing campaigns. Considering this trendy topic, which I'm sure you've heard a lot about, you can hear much more about that and watch it back on our YouTube channel. I would like to thank everyone who took part in our annual B2B marketing survey, which has helped us to form the basis of today's webinar. This survey looked at brands' priorities for marketing investment this year and beyond. What aspects of the marketing campaigns are most valued and how marketers' perceptions of B2B have changed since last year. And we'll look more closely at the results of this survey and what B2B companies are looking for in their digital marketing campaigns in 2022. As a marketeer, for brand or as a product manager, it is vital to keep an eye on the ups and downs on the market, the new trends. And whether you're in B2C or B2B, the priorities are constantly changing. So I'm very happy to present to you today our 4 very experienced panelists who are real experts in the B2B field. We have with us today Victoria Usher, CEO and founder of Ginger May, Paul Grandy, CEO and founder at Bagel, Ginny Bourne, Director, Global Marketing and Communications at Hubspot, and Richard Wright, founder at Stand Up Marketing. A very big welcome to you all. To get the conversation started, let me ask each of you to tell us one quick sentence intro and an interesting fact that not many people know about you. Richard, I'll start with you.
Thanks, Jenny. First of all, thank you for having me today. Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Wright. I've been working in data and tech marketing for nearly 15 years now. And last year, I founded Stand Up Marketing, where I work with a number of clients to help them get their B2B marketing efforts off the ground. I guess the fact that not a lot of people know about me is that Stand Up Marketing is a nod to the name is a nod to my hobby of stand-up comedy, which I've been doing for about 5 years now on the London circuit, strictly as a hobby, I might add. But that's what I get up to in the evening.
Thank you for that insight, Victoria. Give us a quick intro and an interesting fact.
Thanks, Jenny. My name's Victoria Usher and I am CEO of Ginger May. We're a PR and communications agency working with clients across the B2B space. And interesting fact, I did have to have a real think about this. And maybe it's that I was a dance instructor before I went into PR, but don't get the chance to do it very much anymore. And can I just mention, Richard, as a stand-up comedian, he has got literally the best deadpan face in the world, so you would never guess, I think.
Thank you, Victoria. Ginny, over to you.
Hi, thank you very much for having me, Jenny. I'm Ginny Bourne from Hubspot, and I've been in the industry just shy of 10 years. I've worked across PR, publishing, ad tech, and in an agency environment as well. Interesting fact, a little bit like Richard, I've got a little bit of a side gig in that I'm a yoga teacher, and so that's something that I don't really get much time for either, but a real passion.
Fantastic. Lots of entertainment and yoga going on, I think, during the webinar. Paul, what about you?
So, I'm Paul. I'm the founder of Bagel. Before Bagel, I was in advertising for about 8 or so years. Prior to that, I was in investment banking. So I've done 2 of the most hated industries so far. I think estate agents is the next one I've got to do. Interesting fact about me, up until October last year, I was an on-call firefighter. So if you're on a Zoom call and I just disappeared, I was probably running off to save a cat from a tree.
Dangerous stuff. Thank you very much. Well, stay tuned to hear all of these experienced professionals give us their opinions on the current trends and priorities for B2B marketing. And that, remember, there are interactive opportunities here for you. And please do write your questions in the Q&A box below, as I'm sure our panelists are very excited to hear your opinions and questions. So next, I am going to move to reveal the research I'm going to do the dangerous thing of being able to share my screen, and hopefully you will be able to see that very shortly, and we can run through the results of the survey, which we're all very excited to discuss. So basically, we looked at 103 respondents, and what we were looking at was being able to ask respondents, of course, in the B2B arena, their perceptions. We asked them 15 different questions. Let's take a look at those questions. Quickly, to look at also the level, of course, at which people were working at within their company. We have a good split across the market, and also in terms of the industry, where were they working? Again, there seems to be a good split across marketing and advertising and media being 31%, another quarter in finance, and then a split across other industries. Big question here, why do you consider B2B digital marketing to be important? And you can see here that the largest area there, 33.8%, is new business. So new business being the main driver there, followed there by sales and e-commerce, 22.5%. And then, of course, strong identity following up closely. Here we can see Merck, which is an example which we worked on that I thought was really interesting about really looking for new business, where they tried to incorporate social media into their B2B marketing, which I think is quite interesting in terms of their media plan and gamification. And again, we can talk more about where people are actually bringing in new things. What types of B2B marketing do you currently do or are considering at the moment? Here, again, we can see a nice split across the different options, with podcasts actually getting 23.8%, which was quite surprising for me. Outdoor, 23.8% as well. So those two almost making up half of the respondents. And I think there's a big rise, obviously, in outdoor, because, of course, last year we weren't able to go outdoors. So there's some increase there. There's actually a decline in podcasts, although, as I say, it's still surprising to me at its number. There is actually a subtle decline. And again, and I think that's when you look at people in lockdown and what they're able to do, of course, going outside is much more exciting and something that we're seeing a big change in there. There's a slight increase in radio audio compared to last year. And then a bit of decline in the print and the trade press there. And again, we'll talk through all these results with our panelists. What's the maximum that you would spend on revamping and investing in your website this year? Interestingly, 36.3% of respondents are ready to spend between 1,000 to 10,000 on their website, and 20% of respondents are ready to allocate greater funds this year of 11 to 20%. And then 23% of respondents willing to spend 31,000. Again, we can discuss the whys and hows. Do you consider a focus on sustainability key for B2B digital marketing in 2022? Maybe not surprisingly, 81.6% consider sustainability to be very important in part of the B2B digital marketing. Again, how important do you think developing a sustainable B2B marketing campaign is? 75% see that as important to very important to developing a campaign, a sustainable B2B marketing campaign. And again, I think you'd have to be hiding somewhere to not see all of the differences, I think, in terms of marketing and changing. We ourselves got involved in the COP26, and there was quite a lot of different marketing in terms of the communication. For us, we actually built an online app where people who were at COP26 were able to vote and be involved across 33 different countries. So lots of different ways, I think, that B2B is starting to get involved in sustainability. Have you ever spent money on creating or updating your brand identity, brand assets, or new business cards or business creds deck? 57.5% respondents had said they had that they had spent money, yet 42.5 had not explored the opportunity of updating those types of assets. Again, an interesting area for us to look at. Are you looking to refresh your B2B digital marketing plans this year? Yes, was the 63.7 respondents' answers. And if yes, what would you be looking to refresh? And here we've got in the lead social media activity, and then followed by their website. And then closely followed by new content and videos. There were some interesting answers in the other. There were some comments around newsletters, e-commerce. There were some app-based experiences. There was also some comments around augmented reality. And there was one or two respondents who also mentioned the metaverse and Web 3.0. So quite a varied set of responses of what people would be looking to look into. And we certainly have seen a massive increase in digital focus. Again, we probably don't need to dwell on the fact that COVID is bringing in quite a lot of digital focus. That's not new news, but we've seen lots of new updates, refreshes, brand refreshes, new websites, whole new look and feel, as people do feel that their digital marketing is something that they need to focus more on. And I think that's what we see here in the responses from our respondents, where 60% of respondents answered yes to the question of, are you looking to increase your B2B digital marketing spend this year? So again, very much in line with what we're seeing. And how much, if yes, and there we can see a nice split across the different answers there, with the most common being a small increase of 1 to 5, but 26.6% saying 6 to 10K increase. What one thing could a digital technology creative agency deliver to you to help improve your B2B digital marketing? And here, again, we saw the AR campaigns, creative solutions, website design, social media, organic growth. So lots of different ideas there. Again, offering a new style of marketing to reach a broader audience. So I think one of the interesting things that I found here in particular was that it seems that a lot of the things that we might have been doing in the B2C world now are starting to move into the B2B world. And B2B marketers are looking for new styles of marketing and creative ways to do things. On a scale of 1 to 5, where 5 is important, 1 unimportant, how important are your B2B digital marketing plans to your business this year? And again, you can see here very clearly that it's on the 4 and 5, with 53 over half giving it a 4 out of 5 importance rating. For me, or for us, the largest proportion of respondents were in marketing and advertising and the finance industry. I think that there are certainly some trends that I can imagine working across all of those areas. Sustainability, for example, I think we can say that that's a trend across all industries. I don't think we can imagine that's just in any of those that may only be in the majority of the respondents. And I think, very clear, the biggest focus in the digital marketing plans is the social media activity and digital. So lots and lots of things for us to discuss there. And I think that it's a great moment for me to come back to our respondents. We saw that one of the most important reasons for B2B marketing was business growth, as a business growth driver. In fact, over 2/3 there looked at e-commerce sales and obviously B2B driving sales, which I think is a really important point for us to look at. But Ginny, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what you're doing at the moment in your B2B marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are some really interesting stats there. I think it's also encouraging just to take a step back, and not that long ago, a B2B marketing strategy wouldn't have wouldn't have come up as important as that. So I think it's positive, absolutely. In terms of our marketing strategy, it's tied very, very closely to our global growth objectives. So we sort of optimize across the full marketing mix. We're 100% dialed into our commercial operations, and I think that's helped us a lot in the last year, certainly, to scale. In terms of the tactics, we have a really robust media relations and thought leadership strategy. So interesting to see, the stats around trade press. It's a very central to our kind of global operations. And then the strength of our content pipeline really supports this. But it also looks at shining a light on other areas of the digital advertising industry, and also amplifying our message across a huge spectrum of digital channels, social, absolutely central to that. Definitely with the return of in-person events, very encouraging again since the pandemic. Sharing our views, via speaking opportunities is also a big focus. But I think at the center of it all is this ambitious kind of global strategy. We invest time and money in ensuring local relevance. So in each of our key markets, and that's through digital innovation, through localization tactics, ensuring translations, ensuring we're really speaking at a local level. And I think, if you had to ask me to pick one, I would struggle. I think that you do need it all. Marketing doesn't work in a silo. So really, having a fully integrated strategy with your sales and your commercial operations is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, Paul, you're doing quite a lot of things at the moment in terms of launching, in terms of marketing. What are you doing? What can you tell us about your plans for this year?
We're doing a huge amount of email marketing, just purely because it's from a sales funnel. You can send an email to 10,000 people, look at engagements, clicks, and help to narrow down and give yourself a easy sales list to target people from. We're also looking at other things such as Sky TV, so Sky AdSmart. And that's a great channel because it's more targeted. So as a business ourselves, we're a B2B platform, and we're agnostic. So businesses and freelancers can sell anything, products and services. So that creates an issue in terms of how we're going to be targeting people. But if we can target small business owners, it makes it a lot easier for us. So Sky is great for that. And also the affordability of it's changed significantly. So we can do an AdSmart campaign for under £5,000 now, and we can target the small regional area on a radius of 2.5 miles from a specific postcode. So things like that are really good. Even again, digital out of home. So that's on our radar for this year. We've been looking at radio. We're not too sure quite how we're going to go down that route, but it's something that's on our marketing pipe.
Good. Yeah, we saw radio there on the list of things as well. One of the other things is online events, Richard. Have you seen much of a change there? What's your plan for this year around online events?
Yeah, so I think online events, there's certainly a different approach to them since before COVID, because obviously, in a very short period of time, everything went online. Everyone was glued to the screen, whether it was talking with family, whether it was attending an event, whether it was attending a meeting. So I think whereas, pre-COVID, often people would be, and I've been guilty of this, doing a webinar for the sake of doing a webinar. It's people are a lot more inured to it because there's so much choice out there, and there's a little bit of fatigue has set in. So I think there's still absolutely vital components of your marketing mix, but making sure it's tied to a campaign, that there's a very strong, clear format, topic, and also not just thinking about online events in terms of the live event, also thinking in terms of how you can repurpose that content, clip it for social, turn it into blog posts or material which are going to boost your SEO efforts, or gate the recorded version on your website so it's a long-term kind of opportunity to yield leads. I think as B2B marketers with online events, we just need to be a bit smarter about them.
I love the phrase decomposition, Richard, when it comes to content. So you've got an event like you could have an in-person event actually, and then it decomposes, it breaks down into different pieces of content. So, Jen, to your point about events, it has been fascinating to see how events have evolved. And, you started this webinar series in 2020 during COVID. And what we're seeing in particular is a quasi model where people aren't working in the office so much. So are using bigger events as kind of, maybe every couple of weeks they'll go to a big event where they can see multiple people, so make sort of maximum use of their time. And then they're also enjoying hopping on these kind of digital events. So, LinkedIn has become unbelievably powerful as a tool for B2B marketers. And going back to the content point, and content is therefore front and center with that. It's super important to get your thought leadership, your proposition, your positioning, how you compete with your competitors. It's really important that you articulate that really clearly. So that is a really key point for everybody this year, I think, is to relook at where you're at, relook at where your positioning is, and then look at that thought leadership at the core of it, and then decompose it down into these different parcels, if you like, to then put on social media, to then put on your blog, so you're owned, you're paid, etc.
Vic, was that LinkedIn calling to thank you for the plug?
They keep doing it to me. It's so annoying, Rich.
I definitely agree in terms of, just amplification. That age-old repetition is recognition, saying is absolutely still true.
Jenny, do you mind if I just also hop on something that Ginny raised as well? Because rightly, Ginny mentioned the importance of being aligned with sales, because that underpins absolutely everything you do. And I think whilst it's more of it is a strategic consideration rather than tactical, I think sales and marketing alignment needs to be fundamental to any B2B marketing plan. And it's not something that I think a lot of organizations have really grasped. I mean, the stats are unequivocal. You organizations that have aligned marketing and sales, they enjoy much higher close rates, much higher customer retention, and it's something I would hope that brands really significantly grasp in 2022, because it's such an opportunity.
Thank you, Richard. Absolutely. We've got questions already piling in. So the first one from Nigel, thanks very much for that question, is, given the impact of inflation, how do you anticipate this affecting B2B marketing?
I mean, I can jump in on that one. It is having an impact to do with salaries, actually, and staff. That's where we're seeing the biggest impact. So, salaries are jumping literally every couple of months. So, ensuring you're retaining the best staff is really critical. So that does mean having a constant finger on the pulse of what the best salaries are to be offering, what the market is doing. And that makes it really difficult when it comes to your own costs and, how you relate that back to clients. So we're being transparent. We know that the market value of our services is going up relative to the market. So new clients coming on board, they do understand. The issue is mainly heritage clients, where maybe there's a traditionally low rate that's being paid. That makes it sort of slightly more of a challenge, where it becomes a bit more uneconomical for you as a business. But we're all going to have this challenge over the next 18 months. It's not going anywhere, unfortunately. So it's about having, what we're doing is having one-to-one conversations with clients if there's, if there's questions or challenges around, charges that we're having to make. And then with staff, absolutely, that's where it's really super critical. So if we have to suck it up, we do. We do need to ensure that our people are retained, because they essentially are our business.
Anyone else want to add anything there?
Just the point, I think, from experience, we all know that often when when belts need tightening, often the marketing budget is the first thing to be reviewed. So if it was in a situation where inflation, increased costs as Victoria detailed, and cost-cutting measures were required, I think that would have an impact on the marketing budgets available.
Mm-hmm.
I would also just say, I think it's about being really super clear on your priorities. Having, as you scale as a business, what markets are going to drive growth for that. Just prioritizing rather than trying to sort of broad brush do everything. It's just going to be about fine-tuning strategies, absolutely, with that inflation.
Well, I think as well, if we're saying, or if our respondents are saying that B2B marketing drives sales, then that sounds like something that should be a priority, and maybe there's something else that should be cut rather than marketing. But we always know that marketing gets put under the cosh in many businesses when money gets tight.
I think that relates massively to big companies and corporates as well, though. So the smaller businesses seem to be kind of coming through. So whenever there's economic downturn, as you said, the big businesses tighten things up and stop spending as much. So the smaller businesses, they need to grow. So you see a lot of different campaigns coming through for the SMEs, which are the backbone. I say this as an SME, but the backbone of the UK economy. So I think you do see a shift in terms of big corporate versus small businesses spending.
And to add to that, budgets are actually getting bigger from our experience. So I think there was COVID has pulled companies back in terms of their growth, and Brexit also had an effect. Mm-hmm. So we could see a lot of companies sitting on the fence, not wanting to commit. And I think they're now past that. They're like, we need to grow. We cannot wait anymore. So even with inflation, all of the tumultuous situations we've got at the moment, from our experience, it's not holding companies back at all. If anything, they want to really smash it this year and for the next couple of years.
We saw 23% of respondents, 23% of respondents willing to spend more than 31,000 on their current website. I think that's a good indication of looking to invest in digital, looking to invest in marketing. Ginny, I know you've been doing quite a lot with your website. Maybe tell us a little bit about that. In our opinion, on a scale of 1 to 10, in terms of importance, it's a 10. I think the need for a strong website is not going away. Yes, there's a lot of incredible evolution in our space, but some of the oldest tricks in the book remain true. It's your storefront, it's your first impression. So for Hubspot, last year we invested heavily in building a unique global site optimized in 4 different languages to meet the growing needs of our business as we scale. And that's what I mean when I talk about investing time and money and ensuring local relevance. It's absolutely central to our strategy. Has anyone else got anything they want to add to that? If not, I shall move to the next question from our audience. How can we use social platforms like LinkedIn to get the best of them for B2B marketing? What is the best platform based on your speaker's experience?
I quite like LinkedIn for us. Sometimes it can be quite expensive, but I think it's worked best for us so far. One of the challenges I find that, and hopefully I'm not alone on this, is that LinkedIn's just become Facebook for people at work. And you're putting paid adverts in between lines and lines of utter dross, people talking about things that just shouldn't be on there. And I find that does have an impact. It's one of my bugbears. And And I think it could work better if there was more policing on that. Maybe things will change in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, LinkedIn is absolutely critical for us as well. I think we are constantly and there's lots of new ways that you can use LinkedIn, as its own content hub. So we're looking at all of that. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens with Twitter, based on last night's news. Elon Musk finally taking it. So let's see. But LinkedIn does continue to sort of be the leading social platform for us.
Yeah, I think just to echo the comments there on LinkedIn, yes, I agree. It's very important for my clients. One other option as well, which I think B2B marketers haven't truly grasped, certainly not in the way of in the same way that their B2C counterparts have, but should be in consideration, is actually TikTok. Because it's outstripped Instagram and Facebook. It's hugely popular. It doesn't show any signs of slowing down. And I think also, if you have the resource and if it's right for your business and your message, of course, it rewards creative, innovative content and provides influence, as opposed to taking a long time to build a large fan base and then enjoying the influence. So, and I say that, I should say, sort of add the caveat, it's not something I have actually used. I'm very keen to when the first opportunity arises with a client. But certainly, from a theoretical point of view, the signs look good, and I think we're going to see a lot more B2B brands on TikTok in the coming year.
Yeah, I'd add to those points. So I'm with Paul. I think that there's been a real change in some of the content on LinkedIn, which sometimes I'm a bit horrified by it. I'm so English when I say that. I wouldn't put that stuff on there myself. I absolutely agree with Paul. There is Facebook, and then there's your professional networking platform where you have a reputation to uphold, and that's what this is all about. It's a reputation. It's the sentiments that readers are taking away about you as a brand. So it's really important that everything that you put up there that you're going to be is going to feed into that brand and leverage your position in your role at work. And you cannot underestimate how powerful it is. So having a really strong separate LinkedIn strategy is very important. What we've seen work particularly well is C-suite profiling, where you have senior individuals within a team that are doing 300 to 400 word pieces, thought leadership content, where they are discussing a particular narrative within the media or tech or whichever sector they're working in. So it may be a response, for example, on Twitter today, getting a really nice snappy piece up there that invites readers to actually engage with it. And then the other thing with LinkedIn is do make sure your data strategy, you have a data strategy behind it, and you are analysing your engagement levels within LinkedIn and looking to see what people are actually looking for, because you could be posting content out there and not really understanding why you're not getting that engagement. So doing some analysis behind the scenes to make sure that the content is meeting the needs of your audience, and then perhaps doing extensions within that advertising to get new audiences to read your content, and making it educational is absolutely critical so that they are learning something from you. It's not just putting up your views and opinions, it's actually giving them something that they can learn and take away and make them essentially better at their job. Those are all considerations that we find make people incredibly successful on LinkedIn.
So a lot of fans for LinkedIn. And has anybody here on the panel done anything on TikTok?
No, one of my partners loves TikTok. He'll be really pleased that I've mentioned this as well. I struggle to see how it can. I'll stand corrected, but I'd love to do something on there. But I just can't see how I'm going to reach a B2B audience. Maybe our freelance audience, I could find someone that route. But for us, certainly, I want to, but I just don't know how.
Mm-hmm.
Sage, the accountancy firm, they did a really good campaign maybe on TikTok a year or so ago. I mean, obviously that's a large corporate organization, so you got to cut your cloth accordingly depending on how big you are. But I think it's certainly an awareness play over direct lead generation. And if that suits your strategy, it should be it could be an option.
It also is the demographics that engage with TikTok. There's some really interesting stats around this. It's not quite as young as you think it is, and there's an awful lot more males than you think would be on TikTok. So you're kind of millennials up to, from the top of my head, I think up to sort of 30, 34. But I agree, it's probably more awareness amongst those younger age groups. So that's discounting most of us, actually.
But you said you're a dancer, Victoria, so you're probably practicing a TikTok routine, aren't you?
In fact, I was doing it last night in my kitchen, Jen. That's exactly the kind of thing I like to do in my spare time.
And it will be posted on LinkedIn shortly. If we're talking about inappropriate posting. Anyway, we'll move on. Another question from the audience. What are the most important KPIs to ensure the business keeps investing in B2B marketing? Important KPIs.
It really depends for us. We're all about user acquisition, but then there's three parts for us anyway. One is first getting a user to sign up and on board, and that's a key one. But then getting them on board and actually getting them to transact is the next one, and then also retaining them. So for us, monthly active users is our key or most important KPI. Because essentially that's how we can work out our average revenues from that. But it's a three phase: get them signed up, get them transacting, and retain them.
Mm-hmm.
I'd also say I think it's really important to actually have that back end measurement, set up. So being integrated with HubSpot and Salesforce, and actually being able to measure. When you're talking about a B2B marketing strategy, which channels are performing, and therefore which ones to optimize, and that will inform your KPIs. So I think it's just about having that back end really, really solid.
Yeah, having a strong marketing ops function to help you sort of navigate that. Yeah, that's really worth investing in. As well, adding on to what Paul mentioned there, I think as well the customer acquisition costs, making sure you've got a clear idea of what you're getting back. That's worth keeping tabs on, and also velocity, how quickly things are moving through the different stages as well. You need to keep tabs on that, because that's going to inform where you want to be spending money and help your forecasting moving forward.
Yep, data, super important. Joining up with what Jean is mentioning about connecting up with Salesforce, making sure you have got a digital marketing specialist to analyze which channels are working best for you, and play with it and tweak around with it and see what works. And on the PR front, there are lots of different metrics to measure on that. And that's improving all the time. It's not just the old metrics of advertising value equivalency, and the addition of social media also helps with PR, so that you know what that reach is. We also look at share of voice from a PR point of view, which actually the C-suite absolutely loves, because they love nothing more than getting into a fisticuff kind of fight from a PR point of view with their two or three main competitors. So they love seeing that, how they've got that dominance in terms of who is reading about them and what's being said. So it is improving. There are some great platforms out there that you can use for all of these things, but I think it's about getting the right specialists in to show you and demonstrate, and then help you to then obviously improve on your data, even if you're not necessarily a data specialist yourself. Lots of good comments, lots of good areas there for people to look at. Hopefully, Jeremy, hopefully answers your question. Back to the survey results. Richard, were you surprised of anything not to come up in the survey at all?
I think the main thing that I was expecting to see in there, which I didn't, was specific investment for SEO. I mean, maybe people were incorporating that into their web investments. I'm not sure, but I think that needs to. I mean, obviously, if you're, it's going to be of more importance if you are relying on, a high level of traffic and transactions on the website. It's going to be less relevance if you're a sort of more of a challenger sale, and etc. But I would, I would expect to see B2B organizations investing there, even if it's just to subscribe to something like Ubersuggest or SEMrush or whatever, just to sort of track and monitor your ranking on target keywords. Or if you don't have the resource, the SEO resource in-house, getting into the habit of on an annual basis, bring someone on board to just do a health check, to just help identify the areas which need tweaking or updating. I was working with a client a while ago, and they had a lot of traffic and it was great. But then when she dug into the data, that sort of 40% of the leads were coming through just one blog post. So that's sort of quite significant. It's not a single point of failure, but it could be damaging if suddenly that disappeared or that started losing traction. So bringing in a freelancer to kind of give the health check, to provide the guidance and the structure to the internal team to execute moving forward once that consultant has left, that was a thoroughly worthwhile investment. So it doesn't mean you have to go out and hire an SEO person tomorrow, but just be mindful that there are different ways to skin a cat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. SEO, definitely an interesting space. And again, if you are investing a lot in your website, then you do want to be thinking about SEO at the same time as building or rebuilding that website as well. So perhaps it was included. Wouldn't know. Lots more questions. Yes, Victoria.
If you're not doing SEO and you are investing, you're massively wasting loads of opportunity there, because you're not, you've got all these different component parts of your marketing communications and you're just not joining them together. So they're all operating separately. It's a huge wasted opportunity. And like Richard said, even like SEMrush can help you with your, looking to see what people are searching for, which then helps you with your topics for content, which then helps you with what you're posting on LinkedIn. And then you can look at backlinks, so connecting it all up is absolutely critical, because you might have a beautifully designed website, but then it's not going to be helping you with lead generation as much as it potentially could. So this is about optimizing your budget as well, by having somebody that can connect all the dots together.
Yeah, no, definitely. That follows in actually really nicely to a question from Anna, which is, would you say that lead generating is between marketing and sales processes?
I think it is. I think for lead gen, for even email marketing, which I mentioned earlier, once you get the ad canvas or your email campaign out there with the pretty pictures and good content, marketing can handle a lot of that, and then you can do follow-up emails through automation using things like MailChimp or HubSpot. But then once you get so far, once you kind of got that funnel, down to the thin end, then I think sales needs to take over. And quite often I've seen in the past, even in my own business, where you've gone out, you've done a great campaign, you've got all this great data, and it's like, okay, what now? And it's make sure you've got sales resource to follow up on that. And it's going to require jumping on the phone, sending more personalized emails rather than generic. And so I think the two are really important. They come hand in hand, certainly from our perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think it comes down to priorities. It's ensuring that you really focus on that end funnel piece. I think Salesforce is a brilliant platform for that. It's something that our business has spent a lot of time refining. The functions, sales and marketing. Absolutely, your lead gen sits right in between, and I think ensuring that you've got alignment across the business globally. If that's where you operate, then yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's you've got your marketing generates the leads and your sales closes them. Richard.
Yes. I think it's a really important question because often the mentality can be that, marketing run their campaigns, they get people to the point of engagement, they create the lead, they hand it over to sales, and then they don't necessarily know what goes on thereafter, which isn't healthy. So it goes back to my point around sales and marketing alignment early on, even if it's done in a really kind of simple way, making sure that you sit down with sales and agree, these are the campaigns we're running. This is our ideal customer profile. These are the messages that we're taking to the ideal customer profile, making sure you're both aligned on that. And also simple things like making sure you're clear on the definition of each lead stage, because I've been in organizations before where marketing is saying, well, we're handing over lots of MQLs to sales, and sales are saying, well, we haven't seen any MQLs, because they have a different interpretation of what a marketing qualified lead is. And that's just setting things up for failure and causes issues, et cetera, et cetera. So I think if you can nail at the start with making sure you've sales and marketing very clean on what the communication of the process is going to be, what the definitions are, it just makes things run smoother and helps you track what the actual return was on the campaign that you've run, because you've got the confidence that the leads you create are being followed up with in the right way.
Yeah, definitely.
I would add on that is have a look at the funnel. There's lots of marketing strategy, the documents, the funnel that Paul referred to earlier, and the different marketing tactics operate at different parts of the funnel. So, reputation build, advertising, PR tends to sit at the top, where a potential customer is out looking and they're looking for somebody they can trust. They want to see, articles, or they want to see content that's going to inform them about the question they're asking. And then all those tactics, they move down to that very narrow point at the bottom when you're actually looking to close the deal. And having a strategy that covers all of those different elements is really important, and understanding which part does what. And that's something I see an awful lot of is, often CEOs that don't understand which part of the marketing funnel will deliver leads and how important it is to get a spread of different activities throughout the funnel. So that would be my advice. Have a look at that. Literally just have a look at the model. It will really help you to understand which part of marketing fits within and how it does actually help sales and lead gen.
Quick question here in from Adam, which is just looking at a small business with zero in-house marketing. Has anyone got any advice or opinions on web hosting and data capture? So we're looking at WordPress versus HubSpot for CRM and data, and for SEO, HubSpot versus WordPress add-ons. I don't know, Richard, if you've got any opinions there.
I've used HubSpot a little bit of late. It kind of feels, and I'm interested in what the other panelists think of this, HubSpot is kind of almost industry standard when you haven't got any in-house resource or a huge amount of budget to throw at it, because it's going to help you consolidate your customer data and set up simple automations and give you some level of marketing activity. And it's also going to be able to create dashboards which are going to give you a simplistic or simple view on your main metrics. So I think HubSpot is a good option if you have limited resource. Typically organizations kind of start on HubSpot and they probably won't thank me for saying this, but they tend to evolve into sort of larger, MA marketing automation platforms at the appropriate time. But certainly, HubSpot is a good solid platform to start with.
Hopefully that helps, Adam. Moving over to sustainability, because obviously that's a big trend. There's a lot of things happening in sustainability, where we saw in the survey 81.6% consider sustainability to be a very important part of B2B digital marketing campaigns at the moment. I don't know if anyone has got any particular company that sticks out that in your mind at the moment that's doing a great job on sustainability in the B2B world.
I think the problem with sustainability is there's a lot of greenwashing, which is frustrating because, sustainability is really important. We do need to be actively moving towards a more sustainable future. And it's very hard to decipher between companies that genuinely are doing something that's very positive for the planet and those that basically are just massively BSing. When you get Esso and some of the bigger fossil fuel companies talking about their green channels and what they're doing to help, it's quite frankly, it's laughable. And I saw a stat the other day that said I think 60% of the clothing industry's claims are greenwashing, which is unsurprising because they're also a really bad sector. In the B2B space, one that stood out to me is Goodloop. It's a company that works with businesses to give a proportion of their revenue with any campaign, like an ad campaign, to charity. And a lot of those charities are sustainability charities. And they've built that right into the core of what they're doing. Another company is called Bagboard. And what they do is it's sustainable carrier bags or bags. They're cloth bags, obviously not plastic, and they use they put images essentially on the side of that. Interesting that both of those businesses are founded and run by female CEOs.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're at this point now where the entire industry is kind of waking up to the fact that we need to do better. I'm really happy to see that, but that said, there's a great deal more work to do. I think you're absolutely right, Victoria, in terms of the greenwashing. The danger is it becomes a tick box exercise. So I think it's not just about having a sustainable business model. Even yourself as a company, it goes so much deeper than what a business is doing with its own operations. We need to be looking at the entire supply chain. What are your clients doing to drive a sustainability strategy? And what about your clients' customers? How are they living their lives? I think it requires a sort of seismic and very important shift in collective mindsets. And, we're getting there. There's courses that are available. The IPA have a number of really digestible courses around Ad Net Zero, and there's education that exists. And I think the importance is that every business starts to educate themselves. But yeah, there's a great deal of work to do.
Thank you, Jenny. Thanks, Victoria. We did see some new mentions of technology. We saw some comments around AR. Paul, we obviously created some fun things using gamification. What do you think about B2B getting involved in some of these more fun technology areas?
I think they can, but it's all down to execution. Otherwise, it becomes gimmicky. So IKEA did some really good stuff with AR, where you can look at what furniture might look like in your house, which is cool and functional. Then there's other stuff where it's just gimmicky and it's not being incorporated into a wider plan. So all sort of advertising stuff's going on, and then Storm releases an AR app that has no kind of real bearing on what they're doing. Gamification, on the other hand, I think is great. As you know, we did a really good project with the Virus Slayer. So that was good because it's engaging with people to play a game. So it was very apt because of COVID-19, and you get to jab little virus bugs with a syringe at the bottom of the screen. And it was like an arcade style with some cool 8-bit music as well. And it engaged people, so they got to play with something, and we were giving prizes away to the top performers. And it also got picked up by BBC, I forget what it was now, the BBC. And we ended up doing a podcast for it. So as well as creating the game, getting some engagements, it also got picked up. So for that, it was great. And I think some brands can do some really good stuff with the gamification.
Yeah, absolutely. There's also some talk of the metaverse. Ginny, what do you think for B2B brands?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really interesting to see businesses start to look ways to interact with audiences in a virtual environment. Maybe it's been fast tracked because of the last couple of years that we've had, largely sitting at home on our own on screens. But for now there are still lots of unanswered questions, absolutely, about the metaverse. But it's certainly in the not too distant future. It will become a reality, inverted commas. But I think we can already see that we already know about Facebook. The world's biggest brands are absolutely already deep in their development, and it's certainly an area that Hivestack are very excited about. We are looking at ways to innovate for ultimately for channels that aren't yet possible to do business in. So yeah, I think it's definitely a watch this space area.
There was a significant rise actually in the physical world, in the digital outdoor, compared to last year. As I said, probably due to some restrictions being lifted from various lockdowns. What do you kind of feel about that? What are your comments on that, Jenny?
Yeah, I think it was a 17% lift. I think that figure is not surprising to see at all. With the return of bigger audiences and the end to lockdown in many parts of the world. But we do need to remember that there are some parts of the world that are still in lockdown. I think Statista has a projection that global ad spend on digital out of home will increase to something like $16 billion by 2027. And that's just from 6.7 in 2019 pre-pandemic. So you can see that upward trajectory is absolutely there. I mean, we can see that the use of data and automation is a huge driver of growth in this space. We're at this point where audience targeting in online is under threat. Apple removing IDFAs last year, and this year we'll finally see the end of the third-party cookie. Creating one-to-one connections is becoming harder for marketers. And what's interesting here is that out of home has never relied on that one-to-one connection. It leverages user behaviors at a macro level to target crowds of people. So, that we call it a one-to-many approach. But I think there's a lot to be said for that in the world in which we're in now. I think it comes down to really looking to understand audience movement patterns so that we can target with contextual relevance. And, context is king, that cliche saying, but it is true. And I think for us, it's about devising data-driven strategies that meet our audiences outside of just classical digital display and social, where arguably we're seeing a lot of fatigue as well. You hear a lot about audiences staying more local to home, a great deal more now. I think a key learning from being a programmatic digital out-of-home software business that's close to the source is that people are still on the move. They just might not be moving in the same patterns as before, such as the sort of traditional commute 9 to 5, but they are still moving. And I think it's not surprising to see that sort of interest rise in the channel.
What's your top tip then for everyone watching?
I mean, look to data and automation to understand your audience movement patterns, really, so that you can get the context right.
Yeah, great tip. Richard, what's your top tip?
So I think I mentioned it a few times already, but I think sales and marketing alignment, both functions should be joined at the hip and clear on processes, goals, messages, because it's going to add value and improve the effectiveness of all your activity and tactics.
Absolutely. Cool.
Mine's going to be back to email marketing, so I'm a huge fan of it at the moment. I think always go with less is more. Don't write a whole War and Peace email, clear call to actions, and leave enough ambiguity, not to keep people interested and come back rather than tell them everything. And one other little tip, pick Appetite Creative as your creative agency, of course, as well. Cheeky little plug there for you, Jenny.
Perfect. Victoria, build on that.
Well, I would agree, absolutely, obviously, with you guys. And my other tip would be to keep it simple and not to overcomplicate your marketing. We see a lot of people running after a lot of clients running after the bright, shiny, new, exciting way of doing things, it's really important that you get the basics right, that you're doing it thoroughly, properly, understand your sales marketing process, and then you can layer on these new and exciting, dynamic new platforms once you've got the basics right and they're functioning properly. But if you're doing too many things, it's going to be super complicated and you're not going to get the results that you want or need.
Absolutely. Some fantastic tips, some great insights. Thank you to everyone. Really giving us some deep understanding, and I think we've got some fantastic questions from the audience as well. So a big thank you to the audience. So again, a big thank you to everyone here. We will be able to share the recording online afterwards. That's all we've got time for now. So thanks a lot again for everyone who has involved themselves in the survey, and of course everyone who's been helpful in giving us some fantastic questions to the panel. And a big thank you, of course, to our panelists, Victoria, Paul, Ginny and Richard. To everybody here, I wish you now just a fantastic day. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.